you can get a job in the Middle East simply by trying or by magic, through others, or by a fluke. Remember that competition is everywhere. Some here, some there, but bam! Loimacito is the best.
All right, I got this question from a very sincere, genuine question, which was, Loy, from where can I get a mentor? Okay, the young man saw my video on the 15 things on earning money, and in that, the most important, I said, get a mentor. So the question is, Loy, where do I get a mentor from? So I thought I'll answer that question in this video. Okay. Now, a little bit of a backstory. Because I was born and raised in an abusive home, my stepfather was an absolute bastard. My mother didn't give a fuck. She was only interested in making money. I was literally left alone to discover the world by myself. In school, I was bullied and beaten. In church, I was pushed around with groups. I was always seeking attention. I wanted friends. When I'd come home, they would just lock me up in the house. There was nothing, there was no TV, there was no video, there was no radio. I just had my school books. They would lock me up in the house, actually. They wouldn't let me play also. So I went through my whole life like this. I hated school. I just wanted to go out and play and have fun. When my father would come home, he would just come home to beat me up. Did you study? No. And the beating were violent, really bad. And if there was a school complaint, which was very frequent, he would beat me even more. In school, every period, which was it was called a period or session, which was 45 minutes. Every 45 minutes, I was made to stand out of the class. Imagine 45 to 50 degrees heat, Sergeant Indian school. I was made to stand out. So that is why I don't respect some of the teachers of Sergeant Indian school. And I have no qualms about naming and shaming them. Some have died. I don't give a damn. They were assholes. But there were some real good ones who touched my life. Anyway, that's a different story. So I was always searching for mentors. And I didn't know this term existed, obviously. So you could say I was searching for a father figure those days. So anybody who would say, oh, you're a nice boy, I would look up to him, and he would be my favorite uncle or whatever. And that's how my own uncle sexually molested me, because he used to always give me 1 dirham and toys and chocolates. So I thought he loved me. And he sexually molested, and I knew something was wrong. I was a small boy. I didn't know what it was. But then when he just do it repeatedly, and he tried to do it to my brother, I immediately stopped him. I pulled the blanket one day when he was trying to fondle my brother. He was completely naked, and he stopped. So he knew that I wouldn't take it. So I was always searching for a mentor. Always. Father figure. So it went on through life, and obviously then came the MTV era. That time it was Michael Jackson, MC Hammer, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Claude Van Damme. You'd see these guys doing push-ups and big biceps and triceps and curling weights. And then you would try to do push-ups. You think if I do 100 push-ups, my muscle will become as big as this balloon. It's like pump. I would do push-ups, I would do weights. My father would dismantle the weights. So I'd go and take stones. And then you'd see movies like James Bond, he gets girls, and it's like, oh, girls is also so nice. And I would try to talk to girls, and my father would find out and beat me up over there also. So this went on for some time, trying to imitate what I saw online, because we see these characters larger than life. However, still I didn't have any father figure, role model or mentor. This went on until I think my first role model or mentor was a man whom, when I wanted to go for interviews, I went for this company, British Petroleum, for marketing assistant. I went for all the interviews to the final, and the final one, because there was nobody to guide me, I wore brown shoes, white socks, because Michael Jackson wore white socks, blue trouser. You see my previous video, same thing I'm saying. I wore neon green and yellow neon colored check shirt I wore a pink tie or red tie, then gelled hair at the back, earrings, silver, bright silver, like reflective glasses. I look like an alien zombie. See, there was nobody to guide me. So I dressed up that way and I went for the interview. I looked like one of those Joker clowns, you know. So as soon as I knocked on the door, and imagine this is the final interview. I didn't have a job for months. I'm trying to put a positive attitude, read all these wonderful books. So this one Gora guy comes, yes. And you know, the door you can't enter unless you put the PIN code or scan your card, because BP, it's not a small company. So Gora opened the, yes, how can I help you? So I said, I'm come for the final interview. You know, I came proudly. I said, your name? I said, Loy Macedo. He went, he checked. And then he said, no, you don't need to come. It's all right. You can go back. The interview is finished. I was shocked. I was like, you know, imagine for months and months, you're struggling to get a job, you don't have hope, you don't have money, and you know, you read by yourself, you read from magazines, books, and this and that. And finally, it came as a shock because my hope was in this job. Those days, it was 7,000 dirhams, those days. It was a very big salary. You're talking of 20, 25 years? 5 to 7,000, yeah. So I went down the elevator. I was like, wait a minute. But he didn't give me a chance. And then I came back up. And that time I saw the lady sitting at the reception. She was not there before. Now she was there. I knocked again and I came and I said, hi, I've come for the interview. Yes. You've come for the interview. She looked at the paper. Yes. And then she said, okay, have a seat. But then I said, yeah, but there was another guy, tall guy. He said, the interview is already done and finished. And I'm just confused, like, what's happening? So she said, really? She said, okay, wait. She said, who's the guy? I said, he's a tall guy wearing this shirt and this and that. I described him. She said, let me check. And she called up, hi, I don't know what his name. Let's say Alex. Alex, this lad over here, blah, blah, blah. She goes, okay. All right. And she said, oh. And she went like, ooh, okay. She said, he was the guy who was going to take your interview. He's the general manager. And he apparently didn't feel you're the right candidate. I just kept quiet. I was like, you know, it didn't make sense. And I'll remember, it was the API Tower, huh? By the way, the building was on API Tower. Those days, in Sheikh Zayed Road, there were not many buildings. It was just API Tower, World Trade Center, even Emirates Towers was not there. So I came down, I was walking because there was no cabs. Went walking. And I remember walking all the way to Dera. Just imagine the distance. It's literally, I think, 5 or 10 kilometers. Went walking because I was so upset, so depressed, so hurt. And there I met this guy who was my mother's business partner. His name is Chandrasekhar Gowda. And this guy, hey Loy, how are you doing and all that. When I met him, I went to his house. I remember going to his house because I knew where his house was. Hi, how are you? Can I come in? He said, yes, come in. When I came in, immediately I burst out crying. And I cried my heart out and said, it's okay. What happened? Tell me what happened. So I gradually calmed down, gave me a glass of water. And after I calmed down, I told him what happened. He said, okay. Saying, Loy, did you wear this when you went for the interview? I said, yes. Saying, okay. So Loy, do you have any money on you? I said, no. Saying, okay. He gave me I think 100 or 200 dirhams, I don't recollect. He said, Loy, I want you to go to Al Ghurair. He was staying near Al Ghurair. I want you to go to Al Ghurair and buy a nice white shirt. Just white. I want you to buy a plain red tie. Not designer, nothing funny on it, plain. I want you to get a black trouser. Okay, and I want you to buy black shoes. And if you need a little bit more money, just let me know. I said, fine. And he said, black socks, please. Okay. So I didn't know why he said all this. I went and bought white shirt, red, dark tie, red tie, black trouser, black shoes, black socks, and proper. And he also told me, don't gel your hair, cut it short, don't put the earrings, don't put the sunglasses. Okay. And then he told me, now I want you to go look out for a job, and he guided me. And, you know, at some point I did get a job. Now, I didn't know it at that time, but he was actually mentoring me. This, what he told me, was not taught in schools. It was not taught in colleges. It was not taught by anyone. Nobody guided me on this. He gave it to me. In hindsight today, I would say that boy, the first one, was a clown. The second one was the same boy, but he was guided properly. Had someone told me this, I wouldn't have made the mistake, right? So this was my first experience with a mentor. So obviously from there, we parted ways, we didn't get in touch. From there, obviously, I has to read Tony Robbins, I has to read all these guru books. But the problem, at some point, these guru books became too commercial and too generic advice, and a lot of bullshitters and a lot of money-making scammers with very generic advice. Work hard and this and that, and sign up for my course. And at some point, again, I got lost because it became like a knowledge gasm. Like instead of orgasm, knowledge gasm. It's like you just keep swallowing more information and you think you're smart. And this is the problem in today's generation. They read so many books. They have so much access to so much information. They think, I know everything. Just because you have the Wikipedia in your smartphone doesn't make you smart. I tell people, knowledge is not power. Application of knowledge is power. I might know how to lose weight, but if I don't apply it, it doesn't serve any purpose. I might know how to make money. I know. But if I have not made money, what is the use? You should do it. Like, what is the use if I talk personal branding, but I have not done personal branding by myself? So, that was my first mentor. My second mentor turned out to be the most unlikely guy. For Quick Electric, you can Google search the company, Quick Electric, the owner, Gabriel D'Souza. He became my mentor for the next, I think, 5 to 6 years. Everything that a CEO does, that a leader does, that an entrepreneur does, that a hustler does, all the fundamentals I learned from him. He was a lifesaver for me, and if my life has been transformed up to 60-70%, it's because of him. In the leadership, in the logical thinking, great influence, great influence. You see, he's not perfect, but the good things that I learned from him, unbelievable. And I owe, whatever I am, I owe it to him in these areas. And with him, he was the CEO of the company. I used to work under him very closely. I used to observe him, learn from him, copy him, question him. Obviously, I didn't become like him. He was a very spiritual and religious guy who believed Jesus is Lord and Savior and appears and this and that. He never had a single tattoo. He saved a lot of money. He was not a womanizer. He never smoked drink. Okay, I didn't smoke drink, but I did everything else, all the bullshit. So what I'm trying to say is, I took the best from him. And my last mentor was, Mohammad Murad, ex-head of Dubai Police, and CEO of 2 internationally powerful brands. International means it's reputed in the Middle East, but he has gone global. I don't know how far. I have not asked him much question. But his thinking, his guidance, whatever I learned from coaching and making money, I learned it from him. Incredible human being. If you ask me, one of the finest Emiratis in the world. If I look up to Sheikh Mohammed as a great visionary and leader, Sheikh Zayed, Sheikh Rashid, Sheikh Mohammed, I would say Mohammad Murad, my mentor, I list among the greats. He's a legend of sorts. He guided me. I learned from him quite a number of things. And he was there for me when I needed him. So these were the coaches and mentors I got for free. I would call them whenever I wanted, speak to them. I'll tell you, they were incredibly good human beings. I would call them up 7 in the morning. Just imagine when they wake up. They would not get angry with me. Today, when I think of it, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? How the fuck they didn't get angry? Imagine, you call up the guy, he's in the toilet, and he's still talking to me, still giving me advice. They never lost their cool, and it just goes to show me, like, they really were wonderful human beings. Like, if someone calls you at 7, I'll say, fuck off. Like, they didn't have a reason to pick up my phone, but they picked up my phone. They didn't have a reason to talk to me, but they did. They didn't get any benefit out of me. Zero. but they were still there for me. And I'll tell you, even if they did charge money, I would never be able to afford them because their net worth is millions, multi-millions. So these were the mentors for free. So if you're searching for free, a mentor for free, that kind of mentor you'll get only if the person likes you, only if you're of some value to you, to them. Like my mentor Gabriel D'Souza, the reason why he was mentoring me, was grooming me up to support him in his company, but I failed. I was an utter failure, one of the most expensive failures for him, because that was not my passion. And basically I just enjoyed my time with him, and feel bad for him. He's a good man. I was a different guy those days. Then Mohammad Murad, my mentor, he never wanted anything from me other than just to help me, and he was there for me when I needed him. So these were the free mentors. And like this Chandrasekhar Gowda, these people, they didn't need to do it, they did it out of their kindness. So if you're searching for a free mentor, it can be the boss in your office, it can be the CEO of your company, it can be someone successful in your family, your friends, somebody up there, okay? And it is out of their generosity and kindness and, I would just say they are humanity that they want to help you, because when you're nothing and nobody, they don't have to help you. So this is with regards to free. But apart from that, I also got paid mentors. Now the paid mentors, it's a little dicey. Normally the thumb rule is, the more expensive the mentor, the better it is. But in today's social media and internet age, you get a lot of fraudsters. For example, Dan Lok. Just Google search DANLOK. This guy is exposed as a charlatan. He's exposed as a fake, and he has done a brilliant job overhyping himself like he is the incredible, the Sufi, the seafood or whatever he is. He will make you earn millions and billions, and total garbage. People have spent, guys who found me expensive for my $197 a consultation, they literally paid him $5,000 per hour just to take his advice, to change their life. Ended up they spent nothing. They wasted all their money. So it's not like the more you spend, the better it is. Tony Robbins charges $1 million to 10 million. Now apparently he charges based on if you give him part of the profits. He goes into profit share and investing and being a partner. And he definitely charges above 1 to 10 million. He is the most expensive, okay? Then there are people in between. And there are wannabe coaches. The people who just ordinary. You'll be very surprised to know. People who have taken my advice, they've come to me without a job, without any success. They have automatically started, oh, I'm a business branding coach. I'm a success coach. I've even got on LinkedIn a female who has copied, and she's a personal branding strategist. Word for word, she has copied everything I said on LinkedIn. She's a personal branding strategist. She's the number one. The stuff that I did in Dubai, she copied the whole template. In fact, she even claims she has a 7-figure income business. What she's not telling you is she has a sugar daddy. How I know it is because she told me. She has a sugar daddy who takes care of her expense. And this is a hobby. And she's an award-winning coach, award-winning speaker. All total bullshit. The award-winning speaker is Toastmasters, which is for amateurs. You get a 5 dirham, 10 dirham trophy for encouragement. She is considered that award-winning. She sells a course for $37. Some generic bullshit. She has copied my entire content. For me, I don't mind. You can copy. Please go ahead. The world is very big. So the point I'm trying to say here is, the people who know me for years know I've shared this with her and said, what do you feel about it? They're like, man, is she copying you? So people who know me for years know that she's copying, but I've said, just forget it. Let her copy. So the point I'm trying to say is, just because someone charges you $10,000 doesn't mean they're 10 times better than someone who charges $1,000. So the question comes, how do you know if a coach is good or not? The best example I can give you is trial and error. When you book a coach for 1 hour. book a coach for half an hour. See how is your interaction with them. See how is your engagement. See how is the feel. See how is the experience. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Was he as what he showed online on the videos? Was it the same experience, or was the person a total, absolute something else, fake, garbage, asshole, insecure? So this is how you question, this is how you find out whether the person's genuine or fake. That is why anytime I get a customer who says, Loy, I'll spend $10,000, $25,000, even the $100,000 that, remember I told you I got 2 or 3 clients in that category. I told them, before you give me that money, first let's have a 1-hour session. If the 1-hour session you feel it has added value, then let's talk the next step. Then let's talk the next step. So because remember this, coaching is a very personal and intimate process. It's very intimate. You have to talk to the person every day. You have to interact with the person whenever they want. You have to literally expose yourself. You have to share the secrets that you wouldn't even share with your spouse. Maybe it can be the most shocking, illegal stuff. I've had clients who revealed stuff that I was like, are you serious? You have done that? So it's a very intimate process, and the worst thing what you need is you're paid money and both of you are miserable about the whole process. In my 20 years, I can just literally count 1, 2, 3, 3 people, and I should have paid signs to the red flags, which I didn't, and that is another story in itself. So all I'll tell you is there are coaches for free and there are coaches for a fee. Coaches for free, you don't have anything to lose. Keep trying, see what value you get, follow the advice, see is it worth it, and be in touch with them. Offer them value as well. Don't just take their time and all that, and be humble with them because they are being generous. And for a paid coach, search whatever is your subject, let's say personal branding, let's say marketing, sales coach, or say whatever, and whomsoever you get. Even go to ClickFunnels. In ClickFunnels, you get all the coaches who claim to be great and almighty and all that. And always start with something small, very small. Whatever is a minimum, this thing. Like I have $197. I have even $97 for 30 minutes. I even have $47 for one question. So I tell people, if you don't have the money, but for me, it is, if you don't have even $47, please don't get in touch with me because you can't afford my services. Hey, $47 is expensive for you. $47. If that is expensive for you, you should go find somebody else. Go get Ramu from, Bhopal. Maybe he's a better coach for you, not me. So anyway, this is what I wanted to share with you guys in terms of how to find a coach. And remember, it's all about trial and error, experience. For me, I like to, my style is very direct, in your face. I keep things very transparent, and I like to finish the project as quickly as possible. And that's how we go about. So I hope this answers your question. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a good question. And I hope those of you who are watching got value from this. If you have any questions, put them down below. Any worthwhile question, I'll definitely answer, or if required, I'll make a video. So this is the video about how do you find a coach? How do you search for a coach or mentor? And I hope this answered your question. You guys take care. It's me signing off. Ciao.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. You can get a job in the Middle East simply by trying or by magic, through others or by fluke. Remember that competition is everywhere. Some here, some there, but bam! Loy Macedo is the best.